Pokémon holds far more secrets than it seems to, and the 9th generation is no exception. Just when it seemed we were about to receive a self-contained story, reality was quite the opposite. It seems that not only Paldea is doomed, but Kitakami too, and probably in the future even Unova. But today is not the time to talk about that. The apocalypse will reach Paldea anyway. Today, our focus is on the Teal Mask DLC, because despite the apparent conclusion of its story, there are numerous unresolved elements. There are things that don't really fit, and details lacking explanation, until you find the missing piece of the puzzle. Within Kitakami lies a 5th legendary Pokémon, a dark and poisonous one that, from the beginning, has pulled the strings of the story, and it's going to completely change what we expected for the 2nd DLC. The problem is that you probably don't even know who I'm referring to because we haven't seen it. Or maybe we have. Today we're going to uncover Kitakami's true story, and reveal its secret legendary that changes everything. After playing the DLC, it would seem that everything is neatly tied up for the next chapter of the story, but there's a feeling that not everything quite fits, as if there's something missing in the story of Kitakami and the Loyal 3, or someone. There are several clues throughout the game that suggest we're missing a piece of this puzzle. To begin with, an NPC mentions that in the depictions of the false story, there is a human portrayed alongside the Loyal 3. She wonders who it might be, perhaps their trainer? But we're familiar with both the false and true story, and there's no human in any of them. Maybe it represents their leader? Is there a 4th member? At the end, the Loyal 3 need to be loyal to someone. We can notice that the Pokédex categorizes these 3 Pokémon as retainer. A retainer historically functioned as a servant, someone who is under the command of a superior for whom, in exchange for something, does what they are told. Again, implying that there is a hidden leader who was directing these 3 Pokémon. And in their missions on the map, we can read the reasons why they serve that someone, given that they reveal that they made wishes that were granted. Okidogi wished to be stronger, Munkidori smarter, and Fezandipiti more beautiful, this way likely receiving their fighting, psychic, and fairy types. But of course, their status as mere retainers explains things that seem to make no sense during the DLC. When we expected the 3 to have Terastal forms by using the masks, probably with similar appearances to the Power Rangers ones sold at the festival, that didn't happen. They don't even try to use the masks. In fact, doesn't it seem that when they get them, they're kinda lost? As if they don't really know what to do with them or don't have any kind of plan, each one goes their own way and just stays there waiting. Even the bird doesn't bother flying away from Oni Mountain. Furthermore, their increase in size when we find them again, it's suggested to be caused due to the Mokis they've eaten, not the masks, which, once again, they didn't even bother using. These observations strongly imply that the masks weren't intended for them, but rather they were tasked to steal them in exchange for their wishes. However, the question remains, who were these masks for, and why? Because, of course, if we start talking about granting wishes, many of us would immediately think it might be a clue leading us back to the legendary disc Terapagos, as it was the one seemingly granting wishes, as we mentioned in both the Paradox Pokémon and Crystal Apocalypse videos. It would seem this DLC follows that line of thought, but it doesn't. The legendary disc isn't the Pokémon we're looking for this time, because there's a twist in how these wishes were fulfilled that we hadn't seen before. These 3 wishes didn't materialize out of nowhere. They weren't real wishes, so to speak. It's not as if I wish for you to subscribe and suddenly, voila, you're now subscribed to the channel out of thin air. And we know exactly how these wishes were fulfilled, causing significant consequences for the Loyal 3. We've previously established their types, fighting, psychic, and fairy, matching their respective wishes, but don't you find it curious that all 3 possess the poison type along with such vivid, unnatural colors? Even an NPC comments on it. And what about their ability Toxic Chain? Depicted in their design as real chains, mistaken by the inhabitants of Kitakami as pieces of clothing. But now we understand they symbolize the yoke under which they're subjugated, chained by someone to the poison of their own desires. Because if we return to their Pokédex descriptions, they reveal that the toxins emitted from those chains were responsible for fulfilling their wishes. These toxins induced physical changes, leading to Okidogi's sturdier body, Munkidori's more developed brain, and Fenzandipiti's enhanced appearance and voice. But why? Why suddenly have a new way of fulfilling wishes, particularly physical ones, which seems to have little to do with Tira energy and more with poison and servitude? As we've asserted from the beginning, someone has been manipulating everything from the shadows, the true mastermind behind the heist. the one who fulfilled the wishes of 3 innocent Pokémon in exchange of their loyalty and health. There is a 4th member, a 5th legendary from Kitakami. It is this Pokémon that orchestrated the theft of the masks belonging to Ogerpon and its human companion.
Alright, Lore Keeper, your explanation makes perfect sense, but are you absolutely certain there's a legendary, and Game Freak wasn't planning to reveal it during the DLC?
Well, actually, we've already seen it. Let me take you back to the first appearance of the Loyal 3 in the True Story cutscene. Pay close attention. Did you catch it? Let's play it again in slow motion and focus on the upper right corner. There it is, the 4th member of the Loyal 3, or now 4? Precisely the one that appears first, but out of sight, as if implying it's the leader in the shadows. Alright, it's a bit far-fetched to say appears since it's barely visible, but we can get a clear view of the entire being in the game's files. And, well, it doesn't seem to have the appearance of an evil mafia leader. It's more like a peculiar ball with pigtails and a sad face. This might lead you to consider it's simply a leftover or discarded element. Perhaps Game Freak, at some point, decided to reduce them to 3 and this ball was overlooked. But no, because there are additional clues pointing to its hidden existence in Kitakami. To begin with, this must be the entity that bestowed the toxic chains upon the 3 Pokémon. In fact, I find it a stroke of design genius that the last link of these chains, the one holding the others in place and preventing them from breaking free, is nearly identical to the poison-type symbol, which resembles a skull, but instead of having 3 protrusions, it only has 2, making it identical to this secret legendary. Moreover, despite its appearance in that black and white cutscene, we do know its true colors, because among the items at Kitakami's shop, we can find an old, dust-covered decoration identical to this legendary, almost perfectly matching the chain's colors. From all of this, 2 conclusions emerge. Firstly, it's more than confirmed that it exists, but Game Freak deliberately kept it hidden while leaving clues around. And secondly, it's a poison type, possessing a toxin capable of enhancing those who work for it by inducing physical alterations, changing their color, and even conferring them new types. Oh, and there's a third conclusion. We've stumbled upon the peach. Wait, hold on, don't click away just yet. I promise it all makes sense. Right from the start, it was pretty clear that Kitakami's legendaries drew inspiration from the traditional Japanese tale of Momotaro. In this tale, a very poor Japanese couple who couldn't have children finds a giant peach floating in the river, from which emerges a child they named Momotaro, something like Peach Boy. As Momotaro grows, he becomes a hero and embarks on a journey to the island of Oni, inhabited by demons that terrorize the region. During his journey, he's joined by a dog, a monkey, and a pheasant. Together, they defeat the demons and reclaim their stolen treasures. It's evident this is why we're at Kitakami instead of Paldea. But moreover, this was a bait that led us into thinking that, like the child in the story, we would ally with the Loyal 3, the dog, the monkey, and the pheasant, to defeat the ogre, Ogerpon. However, just like what happened to Kitakami's inhabitants, we discovered that things were quite the opposite. But then, how does the hidden legendary fit into that story? Well, it could take the role of the boy, Momotaro, considering it's the one leading the 3 animals, and the first clue they gave us about his existence was, how convenient, the image of a boy in the full story. But in addition to that, doesn't its form remind you of a peach? In that case, fulfilling the role of being the trigger for both stories, its concept might be a mix of the boy and the peach, which is why the community has named him as Momotaro. Thanks to Momotaro, the major inconsistency of this DLC is now solved. I'm sure everyone found it a bit too convenient that the 3 lackeys were revived, which along with the energy explosion didn't make much sense. But now that we know this legendary was orchestrating everything, it all falls into place. Not only does the energy beam bear a striking resemblance to Eternatus' Dynamax Dens, who, let's recall, was a poison type too, but also, when Kieran punches the 3 Pokemon's tomb, his fist emits a faint purple light. It's brief and nearly imperceptible unless you pay close attention, but much like Momotaro in the cutscene, once you notice it, you can't unsee it. It seems like Game Freak has invested considerable care and attention into crafting the lore of this DLC, doesn't it? I just wish the technical aspects had received some love too, because this also subtly suggests that Kieran is no longer just Kieran. Didn't it seem quite exaggerated that Kieran underwent such a noticeable and mark-changing character? Wasn't it strange that just after stealing the mask, he headed to the Loyal 3's tomb? And isn't he someone who desired the truth about the ogre to be revealed? Isn't it suspicious that even after that moment when it seemed like we were friends again, Kieran continued to depart on his own without an apparent reason? And isn't it precisely Kieran who, at the end of the DLC, harbors a selfish and almost obsessive desire to become stronger? The scene of the punch and that purple energy lead us to understand that, much like what happened to the Loyal Three, Kieran is under the influence of a legendary that corrupts and poisons everything it touches. This also supports our earlier observation that the Loyal Three didn't know how to use the masks, because the one who truly understands how to wield their power is Momotaro, and by corrupting Kieran while he was carrying one, he was able to harness its power to revive them. On the sign at the Crystal Pool, the sacred place where we obtained the crystal cluster needed to fix the mask, we can read that gazing upon the glowing water can allow you to meet those who have passed on, establishing a connection between the crystals and the afterlife that was previously unknown. Both the crystals from the lake and those from the masks are known to have been brought from another region and clearly are Terra crystals. This allows Ogerpon to terastalize when using the masks, as if they were some kind of primitive Terra orbs, and much like Terra shards, these crystals hold Terra energy of a specific type: rock, fire, water, and plant. This implies that the crystals used in crafting the masks, belonging to the human and brought from their homeland, are crystals from Paldea, crystals that ended up both in the mask and at the lake bottom. Whether this occurred because the human intentionally threw them there, or if their body lies at the lake's depths, remains uncertain. And it appears that the consequences we foresaw in the Crystal Apocalypse theory are unfolding. That's why in Kitakami we can find Terra raids, Terra shards, and glowing Pokémon capable of terastalizing without the need for an Area Zero directly below. Those crystals from Paldea initiated a crystal infection absorbing energy and growing over the years, just as we predicted. It's quite obvious that, much like with Terapagos, Game Freak has reserved Momotaro's grand appearance for the second DLC alongside a corrupted Kieran as a rival, having promised him the power to defeat us and become stronger. But there are other unanswered questions. Why does this legendary seek Terra energy? How is it aware of its existence? Could Terapagos be safeguarding Area Zero from this entity? And if both can grant wishes in their own unique way, are we witnessing a parallel to the Eternatus and Calyrex dynamic? Red energy against blue energy again? Furthermore, why does Momotaro bear such a resemblance to Glimora? How did Ogerpon's human possess Terra crystals so many years ago? Is it possible they descended into Area Zero, kept it a secret, and then fled the region? Is Ogerpon a Pokemon native to Area Zero? We might uncover these answers in Unova, where Briar will likely harness Terra energy to, just like Kieran tried, prove that someone wasn't lying, thereby expanding the influence of Area Zero's energy. Thank you very much for your time, and see you in the next video.